In a forgotten corner of the bustling city, hidden away from the prying eyes of the world, resided an old toymaker. His name was Elias, and he had a reputation for creating the most lifelike dolls that could ever grace a child's playroom. But there was something unsettling about his creations, something that hinted at a darker purpose lurking beneath their porcelain skin and painted smiles. One day, a young mother named Clara visited the shop with her 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Clara had heard tales of the amazing lifelike dolls created by Elias, and she wanted to surprise Lily with one for her birthday. As they stepped into the shop, the scent of sawdust and varnish filled their nostrils, and their eyes were met with a sight that both fascinated and disturbed them. Elias, a gaunt man with eyes that seemed to hold a lifetime of secrets, stood surrounded by his creations. Each doll was a masterpiece, crafted with such precision that it was hard to believe they were not real children. Their eyes blinked, their mouths moved, and their expressions were so lifelike that they seemed almost human. Lily's eyes widened in wonder as she gazed at the dolls. "They're beautiful," she whispered, her voice echoing in the strangely silent shop. Elias smiled, a strange, almost predatory grin that sent shivers down Clara's spine. "I'm sure you'll find the perfect one for your little girl," he said, his voice raspy and hollow. Clara's gaze fell upon a doll that was unlike the rest. Its eyes were a striking blue, and its expression was one of innocent curiosity. "That's the one," Clara said, her heart swelling with a mixture of excitement and maternal love. She purchased the doll, carefully cradled it in her arms, and hurried home, eager to see the joy it would bring to her daughter's face. At home, Clara placed the doll on Lily's bed, and the moment the little girl saw it, her face broke into a wide smile. "Thank you, Mommy," she exclaimed, hugging the doll close. "She's beautiful." Days turned into weeks, and Lily and her new doll became inseparable. They played tea party, they went on imaginary adventures, and Lily confided all her secrets to the doll, unaware that she was sharing them with something that was not quite alive. Meanwhile, Clara couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that the doll had brought with it. She tried to dismiss it as irrational, but the doll's lifelike features and movements continued to haunt her dreams. She began noticing strange occurrences in her home. Toys moved from one place to another, and whispers seemed to echo through the empty rooms when no one was present. Then one night, Clara awoke to a horrifying scene. Lily's bed was empty, and the doll was missing. Panic surged through her. She searched the house, calling out for her daughter, but there was no answer. Outside, the wind howled, mimicking her growing despair. As the first rays of sunlight peeked through the curtains, Clara's worst fears were confirmed. Both Lily and the doll were gone. Had they simply run away from home? The thought was preposterous. Lily wouldn't leave without her teddy bear, and she wouldn't leave Clara either. Desperate for answers, Clara went to the police, but her frantic pleas were drowned out by the jaded voices of the officers who had heard countless similar stories before. They took down the details, but their lack of urgency told her they didn't believe her. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Lily or the doll. Clara's hope began to dwindle, replaced by a suffocating dread. The police had given up, declaring it a missing persons case, and Clara was left to grapple with her grief and a haunting suspicion that gnawed at her sanity. What had happened to her daughter? And where was the doll with the unnerving eyes? Driven by her unwavering determination to find her daughter, Clara embarked on a solitary quest for answers. She scoured every inch of the city, plastered missing posters on every wall, and questioned every passerby, hoping to catch a break, any lead, no matter how insignificant it seemed. Her search led her back to the toy shop, the last place she had seen her daughter with the eerily lifelike doll. But when she arrived, the shop was gone. In its place stood a nondescript building with a sign that read New Hope Orphanage. Determined, Clara slipped inside. The air hung heavy with the scent of stale waste and despair. Dozens of children sat listlessly in the common room, their eyes vacant, their bodies malnourished. It was then that Clara noticed something horrifying. Many of the children had no faces. Their heads were stitched together with such crude precision that it was evident they had once been whole. The realization hit her like a physical blow. This place, this orphanage, was no sanctuary. It was a house of horrors. And then she saw her daughter. Lily sat huddled in a corner, her face pale, her eyes devoid of their usual sparkle. But when she looked up and saw her mother, a flicker of recognition crossed her face. "Lily," Clara cried, rushing to her side. But as she embraced her daughter, she felt a cold, lifeless weight in her arms. It was then that she noticed the stitching along Lily's jaw, the telltale sign that she was one of the faceless children. Clara recoiled in horror. Her daughter's body was as cold and lifeless as the doll that had replaced her. The truth, like a shard of glass, pierced through Clara's disbelief. The doll wasn't just a doll. It was a vessel, a conduit for something sinister. But what? And why had her daughter been taken? Driven by a desperate need for answers, Clara confronted the orphanage director, a gaunt, unctuous man whose eyes held a chilling emptiness. He denied everything, but the fear in his eyes betrayed his words. Clara knew she was close to the truth, and her determination only grew. She delved deeper into the mystery, uncovering a horrifying secret. The orphanage was a front, a way station for a nefarious purpose. Children were brought here, their faces removed and stitched up to become vessels for the darkest of magic. And the key to it all was the uncanny valley doll. When a child played with the doll, their life essence was drained, their face becoming the doll's newest feature. With each doll, Elias, the old toymaker, created a new vessel for the darkness that lurked within him. And he had chosen Lily because her face was the perfect match for the latest doll. But Clara was onto him. With the help of a few sympathetic souls, she exposed the horror show, bringing the authorities down on the orphanage and ending Elias's reign of terror. Justice was served, or so she thought. But the scars remained. The children, their faces now whole, still bore the marks of their ordeal. And Clara, forever haunted by the vacant eyes of the faceless children, wondered if the darkness that had touched her daughter could ever truly be vanquished. The rain poured relentlessly against the window pane, each drop a tiny hammer blow echoing the turmoil in Clara's heart. Inside, the room was dimly lit, the flickering candlelight casting long dancing shadows on the walls. She paced restlessly, her gaze fixed on the ancient trunk nestled in the corner. It was ornately carved, its surface adorned with grotesque figures that seemed to mock her with their silent laughter. This trunk, according to her late grandmother's cryptic journal, held the key to unraveling the family's curse. A curse that had already claimed 2 victims and threatened to consume Clara's young son, Leo, unless she ventured into the forbidden depths of the attic. With trembling hands, she lifted the heavy lid. The musty smell of aged paper and decay wafted out, sending a shiver down her spine. Inside, nestled between yellow letters and faded photographs, lay a leather-bound book. Its pages were filled with arcane symbols and incantations written in a language that seemed both ancient and otherworldly. As Clara delved deeper into the book, the attic around her seemed to close in, the shadows growing darker, the silence heavier. The final entry in the journal detailed a ritual, a horrifying pact made with an entity from beyond our world. It spoke of a sacrifice, a child's laughter offered to appease the creature that dwelt in the darkness, granting unimaginable power in exchange. Suddenly, the laughter echoed in the attic, no longer a distant memory, but a tangible presence. It was Leo's laughter, distorted, echoing, and laced with an unearthly glee. The candle flames sputtered, casting grotesque shapes on the wall as if the very darkness was coiling, reaching for her. Terror rooted her to the spot. She realized with a sickening certainty that she was not alone in the attic. Something was there with her, drawn by the disturbance, waiting. The rain intensified, drumming a frenetic rhythm against the roof as if urging her to flee. But she couldn't move, couldn't break the silence that screamed of unspeakable horrors. Then from the corner of her eye, she saw it, a dark shape coalescing in the shadows, taking form. It was tall and gaunt, its edges blurring in and out of existence like a mirage. The creature shuffled closer, its presence reeking of decay and despair, and she caught a glimpse of its face. It was pale and skeletal, with eyes that burned like hot coals in the gloom. It reached out a hand, long and bony, and beckoned to her, to Leo's laughter, to the darkness that was becoming. Clara screamed, a primal sound of terror that echoed through the desolate attic. She stumbled back, knocking over the candle. The flame sputtered, then died, plunging her into absolute darkness. The creature moved then, gliding silently through the shadows. And in that darkness, she heard its voice, a raspy whisper that scraped against her soul. "Join me," it hissed, "and you shall have power beyond your wildest dreams." With a strength born of desperation, Clara scrambled back. She had to get out, had to protect Leo, even if it meant facing the horrors of her own family's past. She clawed at the trunk, flinging it open and pulling out the journal. Its pages, illuminated by the moonlight filtering through the attic window, revealed the ritual's final incantation. An overwhelming sense of foreboding washed over her. This was the last defense, the final stand against the encroaching darkness. Taking a deep breath, she began to chant, her voice trembling at first, then growing in strength. The attic shook, the shadows writhed, and the creature stirred. The darkness recoiled as if burned, shrieking in a voice that shattered the silence. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished. The journal slipped from her numb fingers, fluttering to the floor. Clara sank to her knees, the echoes of the creature's screams ringing in her ears. The rain outside had stopped, leaving behind a heavy silence. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky with hues of gold and purple. But in that moment, Clara knew that the battle was far from over. The darkness that had possessed her brother and threatened her son was not so easily vanquished. Yet as she looked up at the brightening sky, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. She had held her ground, had protected her son, at least for now. But the memory of the creature's chilling laughter echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of the evil that lurked just beyond her perception.